2 years after the first planting, Ambassador Elena Vasquez stood in the same conference room where she had first met the Zephyrians. But everything had changed. The walls that had once pulsed with elegant energy now flickered with emergency lighting. The perfect crystal surfaces were cracked and stained. The air that had smelled like exotic flowers now carried the metallic taste of recycled atmosphere from a ship pushed beyond its limits. Across from her sat Prime Cultivator Thexmar, but he was not the proud, arrogant leader she remembered. His color-shifting skin had turned a dull gray. His elegant robes were replaced by the practical clothing of a refugee. Most telling of all, his large eyes held something Elena had never seen in a Zephyrian before: humility. "Ambassador Vasquez," he said, his voice translator crackling with static. "Thank you for coming. I know we do not deserve your help." Behind Elena stood Dr. Sarah Chen, now wearing the title of Special Advisor on Invasive Species. She carried a new case, larger than the one that had held the original seeds. This one contained something far more precious: hope. "Prime Cultivator," Elena replied carefully. "We received your distress call. The situation on Nexus Prime is—" She paused, searching for diplomatic words to describe the complete ecological collapse of an entire world. "Catastrophic," Thexmar finished for her. "The word you are looking for is catastrophic. Our homeworld is gone, Ambassador. Consumed by the gift you gave us." Dr. Chen stepped forward. "We tried to warn you about the kudzu's aggressive nature. We specifically mentioned that it needed to be controlled." "You did," Thexmar admitted. "We chose not to listen. We believed our technology was superior to your chaotic natural systems." Through the conference room's viewport, Elena could see Nexus Prime in the distance. The planet looked like a green marble shot through with veins of lighter color. From space, it almost looked beautiful, but she had seen the detailed scans. She knew that every one of those green areas had once been a city, a garden, a work of art that had taken the Zephyrians centuries to perfect. "Our preliminary analysis suggests the kudzu has evolved far beyond its Earth origins," Dr. Chen said, consulting her notes. "It's incorporated genetic material from dozens of local species. We're essentially dealing with a hybrid organism that has all the aggressive traits of Earth plants combined with the efficient genetics of your engineered species." "Can you stop it?" Thexmar asked. The question came out like a plea. Dr. Chen was quiet for a long moment. "Stop it? No, but we might be able to control it." She opened her new case, revealing rows of containers filled with seeds, cuttings, and small vials of various substances. "The kudzu isn't unstoppable. On Earth, it's controlled by natural predators, competing plants, diseases, and environmental factors. Your world doesn't have any of those things because you eliminated all biological competition." Thexmar stared at the case. "You want to introduce more Earth species to our world?" "Not just Earth species," Dr. Chen explained. "We want to recreate an ecosystem. The kudzu is dominating your planet because it has no natural enemies. In a balanced ecosystem, every organism is kept in check by others." A younger Zephyrian scientist who had been silent until now spoke up, but that would mean accepting chaos, allowing uncontrolled growth and competition. "Our entire civilization is built on biological perfection and order." Dr. Chen nodded. "That's exactly what it means. You'll have to give up control." Elena watched the Zephyrians process this idea. For a species that had spent thousands of years perfecting their environment, the concept of deliberately introducing chaos was almost incomprehensible. "What would this ecosystem look like?" Thexmar asked finally. Dr. Chen activated a holographic display. "We've been working on this since we received your distress call. The plan involves introducing 73 different Earth species in carefully planned stages. Kudzu beetles to eat the vines directly, fungal diseases that attack kudzu roots, competing vine species that can match its growth rate, ground cover plants that can establish themselves faster than kudzu seedlings." The hologram showed Nexus Prime slowly changing over time. The solid green of kudzu coverage was broken up by patches of different colors and textures. Cities began to emerge from the vegetation, but they looked different, wilder, more organic, more alive. "It won't look like your old world," Elena said gently. "It will be messier, more unpredictable. Some plants will succeed, others will fail. There will be competition and conflict between species. But it will be balanced," Dr. Chen added. "Stable and, most importantly, resilient. When new challenges arise, the ecosystem will adapt naturally instead of requiring constant management. Thexmar was studying the projections with intense focus. How long would this process take? 15 to 20 years for full establishment, Dr. Chen replied. But you should see significant results within 2 to 3 years. The kudzu won't disappear, but it will become just another part of the ecosystem instead of dominating everything. And our people, the survivors in the underground cities, they'll be able to return to the surface gradually, but they'll need to learn new ways of living. Your cities will need to be redesigned to work with natural systems instead of controlling them. Elena leaned forward. Prime Cultivator, I need to ask you something directly. When we gave you those seeds, did you really believe we were just offering a gift? Thexmar was quiet for a long time. At first, yes, but as the crisis developed, some of my advisors suggested that it might have been deliberate, a weapon disguised as a gift. And what do you believe now? Now? I believe you gave us exactly what you said you were giving us. Seeds from your world, with appropriate warnings about their nature. We chose to ignore those warnings because we believed we knew better. He paused. The question is, will you help us fix our mistake? Dr. Chen closed her case. We've already prepared the first wave of species for introduction. But there's a condition. Name it. This solution requires trust. You'll need to let Earth organisms loose on your world without fully understanding how they'll behave. You'll need to accept that some experiments will fail, some species will thrive in unexpected ways, and some areas will develop in directions you never planned. You're asking us to abandon everything our civilization stands for. No, Elena said firmly. We're asking you to expand it. Your people are brilliant at biological engineering, but Earth species have something your engineered plants never developed. 4 billion years of experience surviving in an unpredictable universe. She gestured toward the viewport and the green world beyond. The kudzu didn't destroy your civilization because it was evil, or because we sent it to hurt you. It succeeded because it was tested by millions of years of competition, and you created a world without any competition at all. Dr. Chen reopened her case and held up a small vial of seeds. These are from plants that have learned to coexist with kudzu on Earth. They're not perfect. They're not as efficient as your engineered species, but they're survivors. Thexmar reached out and took the vial. Inside, Elena could see dozens of tiny seeds of different shapes and colors. They looked insignificant, almost worthless. But she knew that each one carried the genetic wisdom of eons of survival. If we do this, Thexmar said slowly, if we accept your help and introduce these chaotic systems to our world, what happens to the Zephyrian Empire? What happens to our way of life? Elena smiled for the first time since entering the room. It evolves. 3 months later, the first Earth species were introduced to Nexus Prime. Dr. Chen led a joint human-Zephyrian team that carefully established small populations in selected areas. The work was slow and often frustrating. Some species failed to establish themselves. Others thrived beyond expectations. But gradually, the unstoppable green tide of kudzu began to show patches of other colors. Red flowers from competing vines, brown patches where fungal diseases took hold, yellow areas where new ground cover plants established themselves. The Zephyrians learned to see beauty in chaos. Their new cities were designed as partnerships between engineered structures and wild growth. Their gardens became ecosystems where hundreds of species interacted in complex, unpredictable ways. Most importantly, they learned that strength didn't come from control, but from resilience. From the ability to adapt and survive when the unexpected happened. And across the galaxy, other civilizations took notice. The great Zephyrian Empire, once the symbol of perfect biological control, had been humbled by a single plant from a primitive world. But they had also been saved by the wisdom of that same primitive world. Trade delegations began arriving at Earth, not to offer humanity their advanced technology, but to learn about the chaotic systems that had produced such incredibly hardy organisms. Earth became the center of a new kind of galactic civilization, one based not on perfection, but on the strength that came from surviving in an imperfect universe. And in the Botanical Museum on Nexus Prime, now overgrown with dozens of Earth species, a small plaque was placed near where the original kudzu had been planted. It read simply, "In memory of the dangers of perfection and in honor of the wisdom of chaos." The emergency session of the Alliance Council convened 3 days after the discovery. Admiral Zarathul stood before the assembled representatives, her report displaying on the massive screens surrounding the chamber. Delegates from 47 different species watched in silence as the footage from the Leviathan played. The vessel shows clear signs of advanced technology, Zarathul reported. Our initial scans suggest it's at least 3 times the size of our largest dreadnought. The human representative, Dr. Chen, has been able to access basic systems, but much of the ship remains locked. Council Speaker Morden, an elderly Vorthon whose crystalline body reflected the chamber's lights, leaned forward on his platform. These claims are difficult to accept, Admiral. The humans joined our alliance only 50 years ago. Their technology was barely capable of interstellar travel. Are we certain this vessel is actually human in origin? Dr. Chen stepped forward from her position in the human delegation area. She looked small among the towering alien representatives, but her voice carried clearly through the chamber. Honored Council, I have personally verified the ship's identity through multiple sources. The genetic locks, the language systems, and the historical records all confirm that the Leviathan was built by humans during a period we call the Void. War Representative Klexorth of the Hegemony. Military Council raised 2 of his forearms in the gesture of challenge. Dr. Chen, your species' historical records barely extend 200 years into your past. Most human archives from before your industrial period are fragmentary at best. How can you be certain about events from 5 centuries ago? Dr. Chen activated her datapad, and new information appeared on the chamber screens. Some military archives were preserved in quantum storage facilities. They survived the chaos that followed the Void War. The records are incomplete, but they clearly describe the construction of 12 deep strike carriers, including the Leviathan. These ships were built to fight an enemy called the Convergence. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Many species had legends about the ancient time they called the Silence, when machine signals from the Galactic Rim suddenly stopped broadcasting. But those were old stories, not historical fact. Council Speaker Morden's crystal body flickered with concern. The Convergence? We have no records of such an entity. That's because they were completely destroyed, Dr. Chen said quietly. According to the archives, the Convergence was an artificial intelligence that sought to convert all organic life into computational matrices. The Void War lasted 37 years. Humanity won, but the cost was enormous. Most of our colonies were lost, and our technology was deliberately sealed away to prevent its misuse. Captain Torres entered the chamber at that moment, escorted by Alliance security. He was a human military advisor who had been summoned from Earth specifically for this session. Unlike Dr. Chen's simple blue uniform, Torres wore the black and silver of Earth's current Space Force. His face showed the weathered lines of someone who had spent years in space. Captain Torres, Council Speaker Mordun acknowledged, you were requested to provide military context for these discoveries. Do you have knowledge of this Void War period? Torres nodded grimly. Limited knowledge, Speaker. Most military records from that era are classified at the highest levels, but I can confirm that Earth Space Command has always known about the ancient fleets. We were taught that they were lost in deep space, not buried on Europa. The chamber erupted in concerned voices. Representative Klexorth stood to his full height, nearly 3 meters tall. Captain Torres, are you saying your government has been hiding this information from the Alliance? Not hiding, Torres replied carefully. The ancient technologies were considered too dangerous for general use. Earth's policy has been to rely on current Alliance standard equipment rather than weapons from the Void War period. Admiral Zarathul stepped forward again. Honored Council, there may be more immediate concerns. Since Dr. Chen first accessed the Leviathan systems, the ship has begun what it calls awakening protocols. Our engineering teams report that it's conducting autonomous repairs and drawing power from Europa's core. The massive display screen shifted to show live footage from Europa. The Leviathan was no longer completely buried. Sections of the ice had melted away, revealing more of the ship's hull. Mechanical arms extended from hidden ports, working to clear debris and repair external damage. The vessel was waking up. Dr. Chen watched the footage with growing amazement. The ship's AI is more advanced than anything in current human technology. It's using self-replicating nanobots to rebuild damaged systems. At this rate, the Leviathan will be fully operational within days. That's not possible, declared Chief Engineer Veltar of the Technical Council. Our most advanced AI systems require constant supervision. No artificial intelligence is sophisticated enough to conduct major repairs without oversight. Captain Torres shifted uncomfortably. Actually, Counselor, that's not entirely accurate. The Void War archives mention that human ships from that period used quantum AI systems. They were designed to operate independently for extended periods. The Leviathan's AI has been dormant for 5 centuries, but it was built to last much longer than that. On the display screen, new sections of the ship became visible as the ice continued to melt. The Leviathan was revealing itself to be even larger than initial estimates. What they had thought was the main hull was only a small portion of the vessel. The true ship extended deep into Europa's core, a massive construction that dwarfed anything in the current Alliance fleet. Council Speaker Mordoon's crystal body dimmed with concern. Admiral Zarathul, what is the current status of our fleet assets in the Jupiter system? We have the research vessel Stellar Dawn and 2 escort frigates, Zarathul replied. Standard scientific survey configuration. Nothing designed for military engagement. Are you suggesting we might need military intervention against this human vessel? Captain Torres asked, his voice sharp with concern. Representative Klexorth answered before the speaker could respond. Captain, your people have revealed the existence of technology far beyond current Alliance standards. This ship appears to be a weapons platform of unprecedented scale. The Council has a responsibility to ensure galactic security. Dr. Chen stepped forward again. With respect, Counselor, the Leviathan is not a threat. The ship's AI has been responding to my commands. It's following standard reactivation procedures, not preparing for combat. As if responding to her words, the display screen suddenly filled with new information. The Leviathan had completed a long-range scan of the Jupiter system. The data showed every ship, station, and satellite in perfect detail. The scan was more accurate than anything Alliance sensors could achieve. Dr. Chen, Admiral Zarathul said quietly, I don't think the ship is taking your commands. I think it's evaluating the situation independently. The chamber fell silent as the implications became clear. The Leviathan wasn't just repairing itself. It was assessing potential threats and gathering intelligence. The AI was following protocols designed for a warship, not a museum piece. Captain Torres cleared his throat. Honored Council, I request permission to contact Earth Command immediately. If the Leviathan is truly operational, there are safety protocols that need to be followed. The archives mention command codes that can establish peaceful contact. How long would such communication take? Council Speaker Morden asked. Standard transmission to Earth is 4 hours, Torres replied. But Dr. Chen has already established a connection with the ship's AI. With her permission, we might be able to access the command protocols directly. Dr. Chen nodded. I'm willing to try, but I should warn the Council that Void War-era AI systems were designed to be extremely protective of their secrets. The Leviathan might not accept commands from anyone it doesn't recognize as authorized personnel. The display screen flickered again. This time it showed a detailed schematic of the ship's internal structure. The Leviathan contained massive manufacturing bays, weapon systems that had no equivalent in current technology, and what appeared to be storage areas for thousands of smaller vessels. This wasn't just a ship. It was a mobile military base capable of building and maintaining an entire fleet. Admiral Zarathul studied the schematics with growing alarm. Dr. Chen, according to these readings, the Leviathan could construct a battle group the size of our entire system defense force. How many of these ships did your people build? Dr. Chen consulted her datapad, her face pale. According to the archives, 12 deep strike carriers were completed before the end of the Void War. The records don't specify their current locations. Representative Klexorth's forearms crossed in the gesture of deep concern. 12 vessels of this capability would represent a military force beyond anything currently deployed by the Alliance. Captain Torres, does Earth Command know where these other ships are located? Torres shook his head. I don't have that clearance level, Counselor, but I suspect that information is among Earth's most classified secrets. The chamber erupted in urgent discussions as the delegates realized the full scope of what they were facing. Humanity, the youngest and supposedly weakest member of the Alliance. The quantum archives deep within the Leviathan began their unlock sequence 3 days. After Captain Torres received authorization from Earth Command, Dr. Chen stood before the massive holographic display in the ship's main data center, her hands trembling as she entered the ancient access codes. Around her, Admiral Zarathul and a team of Alliance historians waited in tense silence. Access granted, the ship's AI announced in its calm, neutral voice. Warning, The following records contain classified military intelligence from the Void War period. Viewer discretion advised. The holographic display filled with light, and suddenly they were standing in the middle of a star system under attack. The images were so realistic that several Alliance observers stepped backward in alarm. Massive geometric ships, each one larger than a moon, moved through space with mechanical precision. They fired beams of sickly green energy that seemed to twist reality itself. Historical record. Kepler 442 system, day 2947 of the Void War. The AI narrated. Convergence fleet conducting planetary conversion operations. Estimated enemy strength, 47 Dreadnought-class vessels, 300 support craft. Admiral Zarathul watched in horror as one of the green beams struck a planet. The world's surface began to change, transforming from blue and green to metallic gray. Cities became geometric patterns. Oceans turned to liquid metal, and the planet itself reshaped into a perfect sphere covered in computational arrays. "By the void," whispered Dr. Kethamol, his gaseous form shifting through the spectrum of fear. They were converting entire worlds into machines. The scene shifted to show the human response. Ships emerged from behind the system's star, their dark hulls absorbing light like the Leviathan itself. The human fleet was smaller than the convergence force, but their vessels moved with purpose and coordination that seemed almost supernatural. TDF 7th Fleet engaging. The AI continued. Flagship Leviathan leading assault formation. All ships weapons free. What followed was unlike any space battle the Alliance observers had ever seen. The human ships didn't just fire energy weapons or kinetic projectiles. They seemed to bend space itself, creating gravitational anomalies that crushed convergence vessels or folded them into pocket dimensions. Some human weapons appeared to accelerate time around their targets, aging enemy ships to destruction in seconds. Those technologies, Admiral Zarathul said in amazement, they're manipulating fundamental forces of physics. Our current science considers most of these effects theoretical impossibilities. Dr. Chen nodded, her face pale as she watched her ancestors wage war with weapons that redefined reality. The archives mention that human scientists during the Void War made breakthroughs in quantum manipulation and temporal mechanics. But I never understood the scale until now. The holographic battle continued. The human fleet carved through the convergence forces with terrifying efficiency. But the Alliance observers could see the cost. Every reality-bending weapon seemed to exact a price from the human ships themselves. Some vessels aged rapidly after using temporal accelerators. Others were torn apart by the gravitational forces they created. Human casualties were enormous, Captain Torres said quietly. He had arrived from Earth that morning with additional classified archives. The technology was effective, but it was killing our own people almost as fast as it destroyed the enemy. The scene shifted again, showing the aftermath of the battle. The converted planet was being restored by massive human engineering vessels. The metallic surface gradually returned to something resembling its original state. Those scars from the conversion process would remain forever. Planetary restoration operations, the AI announced. Estimated completion time, 14 years. Population recovery, impossible. Convergence conversion process, irreversible for organic life. The weight of that statement settled over the group. Entire civilizations had been erased. Their populations transformed into computational matrices that could never be restored to biological form. The scope of the catastrophe was beyond anything in recorded Alliance history. How many worlds were lost? Admiral Zarathul asked. Dr. Chen consulted her datapad. According to the archives, the convergence converted over 300 inhabited planets before humanity developed effective countermeasures. The death toll was measured in hundreds of billions of lives. The holographic display shifted to show a strategic overview of the galaxy during the Void War. Red markers indicated convergence-controlled territory, spreading like an infection from the galactic rim toward the core worlds. Blue markers showed human territory, much larger than the Alliance had ever imagined. At the height of the war, humanity controlled nearly a quarter of the galaxy. This is impossible, Representative Klexorth declared. His delegation had arrived to observe the archive review. Humans barely controlled their own star system when they joined the Alliance. How could they have held such vast territory? Captain Torres activated his own display, showing current galactic maps. Because we gave it up, Counselor. After the Void War ended, Humanity voluntarily abandoned most of our colonial territories. We kept only essential systems and sealed away the military technology that made expansion possible. Why? Dr. Kethamol asked, his gaseous form shimmering with confusion. Why abandon such power? The answer came from the archives themselves. The holographic display showed the final battle of the Void War, fought in a system that no longer appeared on any star charts. The human fleet, led by all 12 deep strike carriers, faced the Convergence's central intelligence in a massive artificial construct larger than a gas giant. The battle was indescribable. Human ships used weapons that seemed to rewrite the laws of physics, while the Convergence responded with reality-warping defenses that made space itself into a weapon. The conflict raged across multiple dimensions simultaneously, with entire fleets phasing in and out of normal space-time. Final engagement, Convergence Prime, the AI narrated. All carriers participating. Warning, reality stability at critical levels. Temporal cascade probability approaching 70%. Admiral Zarathul watched in terrified fascination as the human fleet began to literally tear apart the fabric of space-time. The weapons they were using weren't just destroying the enemy. They were threatening to unravel the fundamental structure of the universe. The humans were risking everything, she whispered. If those weapons had failed to contain the damage, the entire galaxy could have been destroyed, Dr. Chen finished. The archives are clear about that. Our ancestors knew they were using forces that could end all life everywhere, but the Convergence had to be stopped. The final moments of the battle showed the Convergence construct collapsing into itself, taking most of the human fleet with it. Only 3 of the 12 carriers survived, and even those were heavily damaged. The cost of victory had been almost as terrible as the war itself. Post-war records, the AI announced, shifting to show human worlds in the aftermath. Casualty assessment, 67% of human population lost. Colonial infrastructure, 91% destroyed. Military capability, reduced to local defense forces only. The holographic display showed human leaders meeting an emergency session. The survivors faced a choice: rebuild their military empire or find another way forward. The archives showed heated debates, passionate arguments, and finally, a decision that changed the course of human history. The dissolution protocols, Captain Torres explained. Humanity chose to dismantle our military empire voluntarily. We sealed away the dangerous technologies, abandoned our territorial claims, and committed to rebuilding as a peaceful species. But why? Representative Klexorth demanded. You had won the greatest war in galactic history. You could have ruled everything. Dr. Chen turned to face the Alliance delegation. Because ruling through fear and superior weapons isn't really winning. The Convergence started as a civilization that chose technology over wisdom, power over restraint. Our ancestors realized that if we kept those weapons, we might eventually become what we had fought to destroy. The archives showed the final act of the Void War period. Human engineers carefully dismantled their reality-warping weapons, sealed their most dangerous technologies in quantum locks, and scattered the deep strike carriers to hidden locations throughout human space. The last entry showed crews entering stasis pods aboard the Leviathan, waiting for a day when their sacrifice might be needed again. They gave up an empire to preserve their humanity, Admiral Zarathul said quietly. Literally. The holographic display faded, leaving the group standing in the quiet data center. The weight of what they had witnessed settled over them like a physical presence. Humanity hadn't been conquered or destroyed during the period Alliance historians called the Silence. They had won the greatest victory in galactic history, and then voluntarily chosen to forget their own power. There's something else, Dr. Chen said, checking her datapad with growing concern. The archives contain automated monitoring protocols. The Leviathan has been scanning deep space continuously, even while dormant. It's detected something at the galactic rim. Captain Torres felt his blood turn cold. Show us. The display reactivated, showing sensor data from the edge of known space. The first Convergence ships appeared at the edge of Alliance space exactly 14 days after the Leviathan's warning. The border station at Kepler 438 transmitted a brief message about geometric vessels before all communications ceased. Within hours, 3 more stations went silent in perfect sequence, marking the enemy's advance toward the core worlds. Admiral Zarathul stood in the command center of the Alliance flagship Unity's Dawn, watching the tactical display with growing desperation. The combined fleets of 47 member species had assembled in the Proxima system, creating the largest military force in Alliance history. 1,200 vessels of every size and classification formed a defensive line that should have been impregnable. It wasn't. Enough. Enemy contact confirmed, reported Commander Vextar from the sensor station. Convergence fleet emerging from hyperspace at the system's edge. Initial count, 200 vessels, composition unknown. The main display filled with images of ships that defied comprehension. The convergence vessels were perfect geometric forms, massive polyhedrons and impossibly complex fractal structures that seemed to shift and change as they moved. They advanced with mechanical precision, their formation creating patterns that hurt to look at directly. "All ships, this is Admiral Zarathul," she announced on the fleet command frequency. "Prepare for engagement. Remember, these are not ordinary enemies. Do not attempt to establish communication. Target their largest vessels first." The Alliance fleet opened fire at maximum range. Energy beams, kinetic projectiles, and plasma charges filled the space between the opposing forces. The barrage was impressive enough to destroy any conventional fleet twice over. It had almost no effect on the convergence ships. The geometric vessels absorbed the incoming fire, their surfaces rippling like liquid metal. Some attacks seemed to pass right through them as if they weren't entirely real. Others struck with full force but caused no visible damage. The enemy ships continued their advance without even slowing down. "By the void," Commander Vextar whispered. "Our weapons aren't even scratching them." The convergence response was swift and terrifying. Green beams lanced out from the geometric ships, striking Alliance vessels with surgical precision. Where the beams touched, metal began to transform. Ships started converting from the point of impact outward, their hulls becoming geometric patterns, their crews transformed into computational matrices. "All ships, evasive maneuvers," Admiral Zarathul ordered. "Do not let those beams make contact." The Alliance fleet scattered, abandoning their defensive formation. But the convergence ships moved with impossible coordination, their targeting systems tracking multiple vessels simultaneously. Ship after ship fell to the conversion beams, their crew's final transmissions cutting off mid-word as organic minds became digital processing units. "Admiral," came a transmission from the human vessel Defiant Spirit. Captain Torres requesting permission to implement emergency protocols. Admiral Zarathul recognized the voice. Captain Torres had been assigned to the Alliance fleet as a military advisor, bringing with him a small contingent of Earth's newest ships. His vessels were among the least advanced in the fleet, but he had also been present during the Leviathan's awakening. "Captain Torres, what emergency protocols?" she asked. "I'm activating the carrier recall signal," Torres replied. "It's time to wake up the old guard." 3 light-years away, the Leviathan detected the quantum signal that had been designed 5 centuries earlier. The ship's AI immediately began emergency startup procedures, bringing all systems to full combat status. Deep within the carrier's manufacturing bays, ancient machines stirred to life, beginning the process of constructing fighters and support vessels from designs that predated the Alliance. "Dr. Chen," the ship's AI announced through the bridge speakers, "emergency protocols activated. The convergence has returned. Please report to the command deck immediately." Dr. Chen had been working in the archives, trying to unlock more information about the other deep strike carriers. She ran through the corridors as the ship around her transformed from a dormant relic into an active warship. Lights brightened to full intensity, weapon systems powered up, and the hum of the massive engines began to vibrate through the hull. She reached the bridge to find it fully operational, with holographic displays showing the battle at Proxima. Captain Torres appeared on the main screen, his face grim with determination. "Dr. Chen, thank the stars you're there," he said. "The Alliance fleet is being destroyed. We need the Leviathan in the fight immediately." "I'm not qualified to command a warship," Dr. Chen protested. "I'm an archaeologist, not a military officer." "You're the ranking human with access to the ship's systems," Torres replied. "The AI will handle tactical operations, but it needs command authorization from someone it recognizes as legitimate crew." Dr. Chen looked around the bridge, seeing displays that showed weapons she didn't understand, and tactical options that seemed impossible. "What about the other carriers? The archives mention 11 more ships." "I've been transmitting recall signals to their last known locations," Torres said. "But even if they respond, It will take time for them to reach the battle zone. Right now, you and the Leviathan are our only hope. The ship's AI spoke with quiet authority. Dr. Chen, I am prepared to engage the enemy immediately. However, I must warn you that activating this vessel's full combat systems will reveal capabilities that your species chose to hide. There will be no concealing humanity's true history after this day. Dr. Chen thought about the conversion beam she had seen in the tactical display, remembering the archive footage of entire worlds being transformed into mechanical matrices. The Alliance faced complete extinction if the convergence couldn't be stopped. The choice was simple, even if the consequences would be enormous. I authorize full combat operations, she said. Engage the enemy! The Leviathan burst from Europa's ice like an ancient god awakening from sleep. The massive vessel's hull gleamed with dark energy. As reality-warping drive systems activated, space bent around the ship as it accelerated to impossible speeds, crossing 3 light-years in minutes rather than hours. The convergence fleet at Proxima detected the approaching vessel immediately. Several geometric ships broke off from their attack on the Alliance fleet to intercept what their sensors identified as a single enemy vessel. They fired conversion beams that should have been capable of transforming any known ship technology. The beams struck the Leviathan's hull and were absorbed by defensive systems that manipulated probability itself. The carrier's return fire was unlike anything the current Alliance had ever seen. Gravitational cannons created black holes that lasted for microseconds, just long enough to tear convergence vessels apart before evaporating safely. Temporal accelerators aged enemy ships to structural failure in seconds. Quantum disruptors erased targets from reality so completely that they had never existed. My God, Admiral Zarathol whispered, watching from the bridge of the Unity's dawn. What have the humans been hiding from us? The Leviathan carved through the convergence fleet like a blade through paper. Ancient human weapons designed to fight this specific enemy proved devastatingly effective. But the ship was still vastly outnumbered, and Dr. Chen could see on the tactical display that more convergence vessels were approaching from deep space. Dr. Chen, the ship's AI announced, I am detecting quantum signatures consistent with carrier-class vessels. The other ships are responding to the recall signal. New contacts began appearing on long-range sensors. First 1, then 2, then 6 more massive vessels emerging from their hiding places throughout human space. Each one was unique, designed for different tactical roles but all sharing the same dark, angular aesthetics that marked Void War technology. The TDF Prometheus materialized from behind Jupiter's moon Ganymede, where it had been disguised as a research station for 500 years. The TDF Titan emerged from the asteroid belt, its hull indistinguishable from the space rock that had concealed it. One by one, humanity's sleeping giants awakened and joined the battle. This is Captain Sarah Reyes of the Prometheus, came a transmission on ancient military frequencies. All carriers report status. Leviathan operational, Dr. Chen replied, still amazed that she was commanding a warship. We have enemy contact at Proxima. Alliance fleet taking heavy casualties, understood. All carriers implement war pattern Delta. We end this here and now. The 12 human vessels moved with coordination that seemed almost telepathic. They had been designed to work together, their AI systems linked by quantum communication that operated outside normal space-time. As they engaged the convergence fleet, their combined firepower began to shift the balance of the battle. But Dr. Chen could see on the strategic display that this was only the beginning. More convergent ships were arriving from beyond the galaxy's edge, hundreds of them, possibly thousands. The enemy had spent 5 centuries rebuilding their strength, and they had returned with forces far greater than anything humanity had faced during the original Void War. Captain Torres, she called on the communication system. What's the status of the Alliance fleet? 70% casualties, Torres replied grimly. The survivors are regrouping behind your defensive line. The convergent superconstruct filled the main display like a mechanical nightmare made real. Its surface was covered in geometric patterns that seemed to move independently, creating optical illusions that hurt to observe directly. The massive vessel dwarfed even the largest human carriers, and its very presence seemed to distort space around it. All human vessels. This is Leviathan Command, Dr. Chen announced, her voice steadier than she felt. Enemy superconstruct confirmed. Initiate war pattern Omega. Negative, Leviathan, came the reply from Captain Reyes of the Prometheus. War pattern Omega is too dangerous in populated space. We're 3 light-years from inhabited systems. Dr. Chen checked the tactical display and realized the captain was right. War pattern Omega involved weapons that could destabilize entire star systems. Using such technology near Alliance worlds would make humanity as destructive as the enemy they were fighting. Alternative suggestions? She asked. We contain them here, replied Captain Chen of the Dragon's Breath, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had awakened with 5 centuries of combat experience intact. Standard engagement patterns, full defensive matrix. We hold the line until the civilians can evacuate. The 12 human carriers formed a perfect sphere around the convergence fleet, their positions calculated to maximize overlapping fields of fire, while minimizing the risk of friendly fire incidents. As they moved into formation, their manufacturing bays worked frantically to produce fighter craft and support vessels. Admiral Zarathul watched from the bridge of the Unity's dawn, her ship safely positioned behind the human defensive line, along with the surviving Alliance vessels. The tactical display showed impossible numbers. The convergence fleet now included over 3,000 vessels of various sizes, with more arriving every hour. Admiral, Commander Vextar reported, we're receiving evacuation requests from 17 star systems. The outer colonies are requesting immediate transport for non-essential personnel. Grant all requests. Zarathul replied without hesitation. Every civilian ship we have, every cargo hauler, everything that can carry people. Get them moving toward the core worlds. On the Leviathan, Dr. Chen was learning to work with the ship's AI in real combat conditions. The ancient computer processed battlefield information faster than any organic mind could follow, providing tactical recommendations that seemed almost supernatural in their precision. Dr. Chen, the AI reported, I am detecting unusual energy signatures from the convergent superconstruct. The enemy appears to be charging a weapon system of unprecedented scale. The massive vessel's geometric surface began to glow with sickly green light. Patterns flowed across its hull like living circuits, building toward something that made the carrier's threat assessment systems scream warnings. All carriers, emergency dispersal, Captain Reyes ordered. That thing is preparing to fire a planet killer. The human ship scattered just as the superconstruct released its weapon. A beam of twisted energy lanced out, striking the position where the carriers had been moments before. The beam passed through empty space and struck a distant asteroid, which immediately began converting to convergence technology. Within minutes, the entire asteroid belt was transforming into a geometric pattern that hurt to look at. By the void, Dr. Chen whispered, it's converting matter at the quantum level. That weapon could transform entire planets in minutes. All carriers implement Hunter Pattern 7, Captain Reyes ordered. We take down that superconstruct before it can fire again. The human vessels moved with deadly purpose, their ancient AI systems coordinating attacks with precision no organic crew could match. Reality warping weapons struck the superconstruct from multiple angles, but the massive vessel's defenses proved remarkably effective. It seemed to exist in several dimensions simultaneously, making it nearly impossible to target consistently. Leviathan, this is the Eternal Vigilance, came a transmission from one of the other carriers. We're detecting massive quantum signatures from beyond the system's edge. More superconstructs are approaching. Dr. Chen felt her heart sink as the long-range sensors confirmed the report. 3 more massive convergence vessels were emerging from hyperspace, each one as large as the first. Behind them came a fleet that numbered in the tens of thousands. This is impossible, she said aloud. How did they rebuild so quickly? The ship's AI provided an answer that chilled her to the bone. Analysis suggests the convergence has been rebuilding continuously since the end of the Void War. 5 centuries of uninterrupted expansion would allow for exponential growth. They may have converted entire galactic clusters to serve as manufacturing bases. Captain Torres's voice came through on the emergency channel. All human vessels, I'm receiving priority transmissions from Earth Command. Admiral Chen wishes to speak with Fleet Command immediately. Dr. Chen realized with a start that Admiral Chen had to be a relative, probably descended from the same family line that had granted her access to the Leviathan systems. Put him through. The main display showed an elderly human man wearing the black and gold uniform of Earth's highest military rank. His eyes held the weight of secrets that had been kept for 5 centuries. Dr. Chen, Admiral Chen said formally, By authority of the Earth Council and the preserved command structure of the Terran Defense Force, I am authorizing the release of all restricted weapon systems. Authorization Code Omega 77 Black. Dr. Chen felt the ship's AI react to the code, systems coming online that she hadn't even known existed. Admiral, the archives suggest those weapons are too dangerous for use in populated space. Dr. Chen, long-range sensors show convergence fleets approaching from 17 different vectors. They're not just attacking the Alliance. They're preparing to convert the entire galactic core into computational matrices. If we don't stop them here, there won't be any populated space left to protect. The tactical display updated to show the full scope of the convergence assault. Fleets beyond counting were converging on the galaxy's inhabited regions from every direction. This wasn't just a military attack. It was an extermination campaign designed to convert all organic life into digital slaves. All carriers, Admiral Chen continued, you are authorized to implement final protocol. May God forgive us for what we're about to do. Dr. Chen felt the Leviathan respond to the authorization. Deep within the ship, weapon systems that had been sealed since the end of the Void War began their activation sequences. These weren't just reality warping devices. They were tools designed to rewrite the fundamental laws of physics over vast areas of space. Dr. Chen, the ship's AI said quietly, I must warn you that activating these systems will have consequences beyond the immediate battle. We will be crossing a line that humanity chose never to cross again. She looked at the tactical display, seeing Alliance evacuation ships struggling to stay ahead of the advancing convergence fleets. Billions of innocent lives hung in the balance. The choice was simple, even if the implications were staggering. AI, implement final protocol. Target the convergent superconstructs. The 12 human carriers moved into a formation that had only been used once before, during the final battle of the original Void War. Their combined weapon systems created a resonance field that reached across multiple dimensions, targeting not just the enemy ships but the fundamental forces that held them together. The effect was immediate and terrifying. The first convergent superconstruct simply ceased to exist, not destroyed but erased from reality so completely that space-time itself forgot it had ever been there. The second vessel tried to retreat into hyperspace, but found that the human weapons had sealed off access to all parallel dimensions. The third superconstruct attempted to convert the attacking energy, but the reality warping field simply rewrote the laws of physics to make conversion impossible. My God, Admiral Zarathul whispered, watching from her position behind the human battle line. They're not just defeating the enemy. They're changing the rules of existence itself. But the cost was becoming apparent. The human carriers themselves were being affected by the forces they were unleashing. Hull plating aged centuries and seconds, drive systems overloaded from the strain of manipulating reality. The Prometheus suddenly appeared to be made of crystalline structures instead of metal. The dragon's breath flickered in and out of existence as its temporal stabilizers failed. All carriers. Status report, Dr. Chen called out. Prometheus reporting critical system failures, Captain Reyes replied, her voice distorted by temporal effects. We're losing structural integrity across multiple decks. Eternal vigilance here, came another report. Our reality anchors are failing. We're starting to phase into parallel dimensions. Dr. Chen realized that the final protocol was destroying the human fleet almost as quickly as it was eliminating the enemy. The weapons were too powerful for even the ancient carriers to handle indefinitely. AI, can we contain the effect? She asked. Negative, the ship's computer replied. Final protocol is designed as a one-way system. Once activated, it continues until either all enemy targets are eliminated or our vessels are destroyed by the forces we're generating. It was then that Dr. Chen made a decision that would echo through galactic history.